All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Course Creator Community Podcast. I am super excited because we've got an absolute rock star on the line this week. Now, I know I say that every week, but this person is actually a rock star. A little bit about her. She's pulled off a 5-figure launch for her first course with just 2 weeks prep, and that's what we're going to speak about today. But on top of that, she's an online business and messaging strategist, or that's her official title, but she's a messaging queen. She's a mama. She's a wifey. She's a beach lover. She's a life lifter. And you can find her on YouTube with her new videos every week. I've got the link down in the show notes, melindakitto.com/YouTube. The thing that I like about her most, though, is that she comes from the most Australian named place in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're originally from Wagga Wagga, which is like the most Australian name in the world. And I think you currently reside in Woonona, which is like the second most Australian name in the world.
Woonona within Wollongong, yes.
Exactly. Within Wollongong, the third most Australian name in the world. So
I'm really sticking to the W's. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Honestly, though, when it comes to messaging, I think she's the best in Australia anyway. I know everyone in Australia. She's mastered the country, not even the country, the continent. I think she's the best messaging strategist in the whole continent. So without further ado, let me introduce the one and only Melinda Kitto. Melinda, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. I think you must just qualify as the best compliment giver in the continent. So.
Yeah, well, I was lucky. You had it all. I'm like, oh, what do I say? And then I went on your Facebook and I'm like, oh, I could just copy and paste all of this. So it was easy for me. Okay, Melinda, tell us a little bit about yourself. We've podcasted before. We've chatted a couple times. I know what it is you do. But if someone's listening and they don't quite know what it is you do you want to tell us what it is you do, but also give us a bit of a story? How'd you get into it?
Sure. Well, so the people that I work with are people who are in service-based businesses, course creators, coaches, service providers, and they are phenomenal at what they do. They are an expert. They are really amazing at delivering that transformation for their clients, but they often struggle with how to actually put that into words that convey that brilliance in a way that makes their audience, first of all, get it, but more importantly, want it. So I'm that person who can reach into your brain and go, are you trying to say, that you do this? And I'm like, yes, that's what I've been trying to say. So I basically help to translate the brilliance that you offer into compelling, juicy messaging that makes your audience want it. So I've been doing that for a few years now. So the launch that we're going to talk about is something that happened, I think it was back in about 2019, probably about 2018 for the first course that I launched, which is still my signature program that I run today. And yeah, so it's always that question of how did you end up here? And I never imagined I would be doing this, but when you look back across your life, you see how actually I can see how that was building the whole time, because I've always had a bit of a knack with words, and particularly using words to get results. So back in my corporate days, I would be the one that people would come to and say, like, Mel, can you help me write this email to Betty in accounts to get her to pay that damn invoice? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And write this petty, slightly, targeted email that would get Betty to do the bloody thing that we wanted her to do. Or, friends, when Tinder comes along, how do I reply to this message? Give me your phone. So I just always have known how to get the results that we're wanting just by arranging words in a certain way. So my previous corporate background was in human resources and particularly learning and development. So I had a lot of course creator background from back in those days, like developing course curriculum for corporate training. And yeah, so it's just all those roads kind of lead together, and here we are.
Can I put you on the spot with your words?
You can try. Have you got a Tinder message you need replying to?
I was thinking that as soon as you said Tinder, I was like, oh, should I get my phone out? But I was actually thinking, but before you said that, have you got an example of maybe a client that was like, hey, Melinda, here's what I do. And it sounds super boring when they told you what they did. And you were like, well, actually, if you word it like this, and the person's like, oh my God, that's so much better. Have you got an example or something you could share there?
Oh gosh.
Or do we want to put you on the spot and ask one of the guys that are on the call?
Happy to do that. That's probably easier than me trying to remember somebody.
Let's do that. All right. I might get Stuart. I know you've probably got a better signal than Russ. You want to unmute yourself, Stuart?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I put you on the spot, Stuart?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. And I'm probably, as soon as I heard what you did, Melinda, I was like, oh my God, this is what I need. No,
that's a good example
funny,
there, right?
Stuart? Let me tell you something funny. That's the name of my program. The name of the program is Oh My God, I Need That. Because messaging is all about, how do I describe what I do in a way that makes my clients say, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. So that's quite hilarious that you've just said that.
That's how I got interested in Melinda's content. I think I sent her a message on Facebook. I'm like, hey, what do you do? She's like, I do this. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. So, all right, let's. Do you want to take over here, Melinda? Do you want to ask Stuart some questions, or how do we do this?
So why don't you just give us your version of what you do, Stuart?
Yeah, okay, cool. So also, I guess I'm pretty monotone, and I think I'm very black and white thinker. And so a lot of that sort of creative words and stuff don't come naturally to me. And so, that's why I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, at the moment, I own a group fitness facility. So what we do is specialize in helping women over 30 to feel good about themselves. And when I market that as we're going to help you lose weight and feel confident, sort of thing. I don't write sort of thing on there, but there you go. And because that's what they think they want, is that they want to lose weight, because then they'll feel good. But then when they get in the door, we teach them to have confidence in themselves already as it is, be accepting of themselves, and also that they don't have to go all out, 100%, all or nothing, just 1% better every day, and that sort of thing. So it's about that gradual improvement and feeling confident in themselves. So that's what I do at the moment, and I guess I'm sort of following along in Jono's thing, Jono's membership. Well, I guess his journey into that, because I'm thinking about, well, I'm working on doing something online in the future, but I really am not real clear on that. So let's just focus on what I'm doing now at the moment.
I love it. Well, let me speak to one thing, because one of the first things that you were concerned about is that you're not great with creative words. And honestly, I think that's where a lot of people trip themselves up with messaging, because they feel like they need to be creative, or they feel like they've got to come up with something that sounds fancy or like unique or whatever. But honestly, the best thing with messaging is clarity and specificity. If you try to overcomplicate something or make it sound good, in inverted commas, that's often when where you start saying something like, we help powerful women supercharge their metabolism to unleash their inner warrior, and then you just go, okay,
what the hell does that mean? What are you trying to tell me?
It sounds good, but exactly what the hell, we have messaging that goes, yeah, okay, I guess that sounds good. And we have messaging that's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. So what I liked with what you've told me already is that you are not trying to sell what they aren't looking for. That your initial messaging is like, we help you to lose weight and feel good. So in terms of clarity, in terms of specificity, that's fantastic. And I really like how you are speaking to the thing that they are looking for, not the thing that you ultimately believe they need. So that once you get them in the door, you're going to help them with their confidence and all those sorts of things. But that's not their primary problem, their primary desire. So you're doing really great there. The only thing that kind of jumped out for me is when you said, you're going to do this in a way where they don't have to go all out, where, it's going to be a bit of a gradual process. So I would love you to add something in there, like a without statement. And so this would be how you're going to help them get X result without something that they don't want to have to do. So in your case, for women over 30, it could be something like, we help women over 30 to lose weight and feel good without having to give up their wine. Or without having to give up like their girls' nights out or something like that. Like, what is something that they don't want to have to say goodbye to in order to get that result?
Yeah.
So that's enough, honestly, to add that little bit of extra oomph to your words and turn it from something that's like, well, it adds a bit of uniqueness in the sense that you're not going to teach them you're not going to give them strict routines, or, you are going to be different to what they might have seen before, but you're also showing them how you're going to help them to get that result without doing the very thing that they are dreading having to do.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. There you go. So for everyone listening, that's what Melinda does. All right. Let's get into your story, Melinda. So 5-figure launch your first time. A lot of people listen to this. They're like, man, I wish I could just make 5 sales my first time, 5 figures. How did you do it, Melinda? Start where you want to start, and I'll let you take over here and I'll jump in if needs be.
Sure. Well, the context of this story is that I'm a horrible procrastinator and I had been wanting to launch this course for quite a long time. And at this point in my business, I actually had got myself into quite a nasty pickle because I had been working one-on-one with clients, and I had previously done a bit of a promotion, like I ran a 5-day challenge to sign one-on-one clients. And that went really well, but I ended up accidentally overbooking myself by quite a number of people. And so I was absolutely maxed out with work. I was completely burnt out. And one of the great things about that sale is almost everyone paid me in full, but that actually created this huge problem in the sense that I had a full roster of clients for the next 4 months, and I had no more payments coming through because they had all given me their money up front. So, which is great on one thing, great on one hand, you can't complain, but then it was creating a big problem down the track. So I knew I had been needing to have this course come through, but then it became a bit of a desperate situation because I needed to create leverage in my income, and I couldn't take on any more clients. So, but even though I had that problem, I still, I'll get around to it. And I had this plan that I was going to be flying to New York for a business conference. And I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll launch it right before I fly out, and then I'll do my 10-day trip, and then I'll start the course as soon as I get back. So I'll just be sitting on an airplane or wandering through the streets of Manhattan, just reveling in the success of this amazing launch. So I had a deadline, and because of my wonderful procrastination skills, that deadline was getting closer and closer, and I hadn't actually made any progress to launching this thing. And so my brain starts going, oh, look, maybe I'll put it off a bit longer. Like, it was just my deadline. Who really cares? I'll launch it when I get back. But I thought, you know what, if I do that, it's going to be another 6 months. Like, I know myself, I have to stick to this deadline. But by that point, I only had 2 weeks until my flight. So I had to pull off a little bit of a miracle. So I always say, like, this is the launch I pulled out of my bum in 2 weeks. So
just one thing there, just for the American listeners, in Australia, bum means booty, because in America it means a homeless person, and we've had some Melinda didn't pull it out of a homeless person. She pulled it out of her booty. Yeah.
You got to get creative when you're on a time crunch. So so I had to be a bit innovative, which I think in the end, first of all, taught me a whole lot of amazing lessons that I still rely on today, but also just created extra fun. And honestly, one of the things that came out of that innovation, I think, is the main reason why I hit 5 figures. So we'll talk about some of the things that I did. First of all, I'd never done a course launch before, but I had success with my 5-day challenge. So the last time I'd run this 5-day challenge, I had overbooked myself with clients. So I thought, okay, well, that format works really well for me. So my first tip, I suppose, when it comes to doing a course launch or anything like that, is that you've got to remember what works for you. Because I think sometimes when we need to, when we want to do this launch, we put this event up on a pedestal of like, this is this big thing and I've got to do it properly. And so we buy this person's course or we read this person's book and we feel like we've got to replicate their strategy exactly. But what I would suggest is that you need to remember what works for you, and don't throw that stuff out. Don't go to somebody else's strategy and follow that exactly when you've never done that before. If you have reliable sales strategies that are tried and tested for you. So I really had that at the front of my mind. I'm like, I know this 5-day challenge works for me. It's so connecting and engaging with my audience. They love it. And I knew that the last time I ran it, I had people, even on the first or second day, saying, I don't care what you're selling at the end of this, I know that I'm buying it. So I was like, okay, my first priority is to run something that's tried and tested that I know works for me. But in saying that, I'd never sold this as a course before. It was essentially my one-on-one work packaged up as a course, but I'd never sold this. So even though I knew the format of the 5-day challenge worked really well for me, I didn't know that this course was going to sell. So I wanted to give myself the confidence I needed and also the detachment from the results that I needed to be able to really show up for that 5-day challenge, be myself, settle into my unique style, and just do what I do best. So in the start of that 2 weeks, I was like, I just need some people to buy this thing. I need to have at least a handful of people who are going to be in the Facebook group. So I know that no matter what happens in this challenge, I at least have a handful of people that I can run this thing with. Because I didn't want to have this threat hanging over me the whole week, waiting for the pitch day, going, I hope this sells, I hope this sells, I hope this sells. Like that would have ruined my energy for the whole thing. So what I did was I went back through lists of previous leads. So this would be people that I'd had discovery calls with who hadn't become one-on-one clients, or people who had bought, $50 or $100 things from me before. Anybody who had engaged in my business in a serious way without investing in my higher ticket offer. Because I thought those people already know me, they already appreciate my work, and they have probably been waiting for an offer just like this one. And you could argue 2 ways for this approach, but what I decided to do was I reached out to each of them personally. There was probably a list of about 25 people that I had. I reached out to each of them personally and I said, look, hey, I'm launching this course. And because, we already have a relationship, because I know that you enjoy this work, I want to give you a ridiculous price on this program because I just want you inside it. Yeah. So I made them feel special and I gave them an invitation to join at a drastically reduced price. I think the first time I ran this course, it was $497 Australian dollars. So it wasn't a huge investment anyway, but I think this group of people got it for like $197, which was outrageously low. Even the $497 was outrageously low, but that just allowed me, I think from the 25 people I messaged, I think 8 ended up enrolling at that price. Yeah. So that just meant I could be like, all right, it doesn't matter what happens from this point. I have a group of 8 people who want this course, and it means I can run it, and it means I'll have recorded all the lessons and the first round is in the bank, and happy days. So that gave me the confidence that, well, first of all, people want the offer. They want the outcome from this offer. And I at least have enough people to justify running the course. So now I can go ahead with my 5-day challenge and go, whatever happens, happens.
Awesome. Okay. And then from there?
So from there, I went ahead and ran the challenge.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha.
No, go. What was it close to?
No, I was going to say you like, it wasn't just those 8, right? You then did the challenge to get other people in. Yeah.
Yes. So that was just a starting point. And honestly, like I debated with myself for a little bit of like offering that low price, because that group of people were my hottest leads. So you could argue I shouldn't have given them a discount, because they probably would have paid full price anyway.
Yeah.
But I think the loss that I took on the amount those people paid me is what actually ended up equaling the full 5-figure launch in the end, because I was able then to bring my fullest and wholest energy to the challenge without the pressure or desperation that I might have felt otherwise. Because honestly, I did need it to work. I had put myself in such a bind with my one-on-one work that I needed this course launch to work. So without that like initial burst of sales, I would have had a very different energy. So
100%.
So probably the coolest thing about this launch is, as I said, it demanded a bit of innovation, because with 2 weeks to get this together, one of the biggest problems that I came across is like, oh shit, I don't have a sales page for this thing and I need a sales page.
How did you sell it to those 8? Was that just like an email? Hey, it's going to cover bang, 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 bang. Here's a link to a checkout card or something.
I probably even just sent them an invoice to be honest. Okay. It was a personalized email about like, here's the outcomes of the course, and we've worked together before, you know what I'm like. Just come by it, will you? So it was a single email, and email marketing is one of my skills anyway, so that part was kind of relatively straightforward for me. But this big problem appeared, that I don't have this sales page, and I had a little bit of a meltdown about that, because I'm like, oh my God, like I don't have time to do a proper sales page. Like anything I pull together is going to look so shit. Like this is going to be awful. And I don't know how this idea came to me, but I thought, hang on a minute, maybe the fact that it looks shit, maybe I can use that. And what came forward for me is actually like a lesson that I still embrace today, and it's actually become a real core teaching component of my work, because I had to think about, well, what do I need the sales page to tell them? What do I need them to believe in order to feel like my program is exactly what they need? And one of the core kind of messaging approaches is, well, you got to understand their current pain and their desired pleasure, and then show how your thing is the path that's going to get them from one to the other. And so, look, of course I was going to do that, but one of the ingredients that I think a lot of people miss in their messaging is you have to make them believe that your approach is the only way or the best way to get that desired result. And so I realized, like, the thing that I needed to convince them of is that it's all about the messaging, that you could have great branding, you could have shitty branding, you could have a 5-piece funnel with a orchestra in the back singing hallelujah, but none of that shit works unless unless I can convince you that this is exactly what you need. And so I thought, well, if the best I can do is a shitty looking sales page, why don't I deliberately make it look as shit as possible, and then use my words to say, even though this looks like shit, you still want to buy it, don't you? That's the power of messaging. And I was like, this is either going to be a stroke of marketing genius. This is going to be the worst failure ever. But literally my sales page, the headline was, this is the shittiest looking sales page you'll ever see.
Yeah, wow.
And it was purely about, like, it doesn't matter how things look. It doesn't matter how things sound. It all comes down to, if I can make you want it, then that's good messaging. And when your messaging is strong, you don't need this, you don't need that, you don't need that. You simply talk about what you do, and the right people will say, oh my God, I need that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. And so that sales page, it actually became a bit of a shtick because it was cool in and of itself. It was funny, and it proved the point of my course. It proved the point that if if you can do this part well, then that is all that makes the difference. So the sales page in and of itself was proving exactly why people needed the program, as well as compelling them to want it. But if I fast forward a few years, I made the mistake that I think a lot of people make, and I've kind of touched on it already, where when I wanted to now take my business seriously, I used that sales page for probably about 2 years. And then I got to a point of like, okay, I'm ready to make my evergreen funnel and I'm ready to scale this thing. And I went, you know what? It's time for a proper sales page. So I'm going to make it pretty now, and I'll like have the properly structured sales copy and all that kind of thing. So I went to, you know, your standard sales page template, beautifully designed. And, you know, I'm still good on the messaging. So the copywriting was still great, but that sales page has never performed as well as my original.
You broke your first rule, Melinda. Your first
I
rule
did.
on this thing was, you know, if something works for you, stick for that thing.
I did.
Yeah.
But I think we all do that when we go, okay, I've done my scrappy things, like this worked, but now it's time to get serious. Now it's time to do things properly. And we break what works for us.
Yeah.
And what I've now realized is it wasn't the scrappiness of that made it work. It was that sense that I was proving why my course was needed.
Yeah.
There was nothing else I could have said about pain points or outcomes and benefits. Nothing else would have convinced people more than me demonstrating just what a difference good messaging can make. So that's now, like I said, a core component of my teaching, because yes, pain points are great. Yes, outcomes and benefits and juicy language and all that kind of thing. But what makes people buy your course is them believing that that is exactly what they need, that is the missing ingredient. And so that's now become a core component of what I help my clients to discover is, what do they currently believe? Like what do they feel is the answer? What myths have they bought into? What mistaken beliefs are they caught up in that is ultimately stopping them from getting the results that they need? And what do I need to communicate to break or dismantle those existing beliefs and replace them with new beliefs which support my program? This might be a little bit of a side quest, so you can pull me up if you need to, but I'll give you an example of this in action. One of my clients, Judy, is a early childhood educator. She runs music programs for early childhood educators to help them bring really fun and engaging music lessons into preschools and early learning centers. And so she's like this fun, vibrant music queen, like she's just really fun, kindy music. And so she teaches these educators how to run these amazing programs. And we were looking at her webinar and, you know, all of the points in her webinar was like how she was going to pitch this thing. And I was like, okay, so let's think about some of the beliefs that these educators have that may be stopping them from running these kind of music lessons in the first place. And, you know, we went through a whole bunch of them, but one of the key beliefs is like, they think that they have to be a good singer. And so a lot of them, if they feel like they're not a good singer, they will like get the other teacher in the room, the one who has the best voice in the room. They always get just palmed off to them, right? And so I was like, okay, so it wouldn't matter how great your sales page is. It wouldn't matter how convincing your webinar is, how much value you cram into that, how energetic and wonderful you are. Because fundamentally, if they believe that they are not a good singer, therefore they can't run good music lessons, they will never buy.
Yeah.
They'll be the person who's like, oh my God, Judy, you're so great. I love what you do. You're the best. But they won't buy. that's so frustrating when you get people saying, I love your work, you're amazing, I could listen to you all day, but no, I'm not giving you any money.
Yeah. And then they'll go and buy someone else's program, right?
Well, yeah, if that person gives them the belief that they need it.
Yeah.
Right. So we realized that Judy's webinar wasn't about demonstrating value or, giving my 5 tips for running a great music lesson. It was about changing their beliefs, because I have to help this person believe that you could have the worst voice in the room, but if you know how to use your facial expressions, if you know how to use your volume, and then you can run the most amazing music lessons.
That's so good. Yeah.
And I think I don't think I realized it at the time, but I learned that lesson from that shitty sales page, because I was literally, that page was changing people's beliefs.
Yeah.
It was showing them actually how literally you can see how none of that other stuff matters when you get this right. So I was making them believe, you know what, she's right. If I can just figure out my messaging, that's all I need.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Let's continue with this story here, Melinda. So you've got that scrappy sales page up now. What was the next step from there?
So the next step was just to have fun with this challenge. So my approach to challenges is I just jumped on live it was always meant to be 30 minutes, but it always ended up being an hour. And, I was just riffing exactly as I'm doing now and just hanging out with my people. And it
was a messaging challenge, Melinda. What was the challenge?
So I've run 2 challenges. So one of my favorites is called Pimp Your Promo, which I'm actually planning to run again pretty soon. And that's how to pimp up your promo, how to write really great promotional posts that cut through all the noise, that speak to the right people and make them go, oh, I need to check this out, right? So I'd run Pimp Your Promo once. I think for this one I did a similar kind of style, but I think it was more generic, I suppose. So that one was called Nail Your Message. And we talked about the fundamentals of good messaging. Gotcha. But my approach to challenges is to show off my skills and show off my vibe. Because I teach exactly as I'm chatting with you now. I'm very natural and try to keep things fun and silly. So I wanted people to see who I was as a coach and hopefully feel like I'm kind of a cool chick to be able to hang out with for any length of time. But I also wanted to show I really know what I'm friggin' talking about here. And so I gave them a lot of opportunities in both of those challenges to say, okay, tell me your 3 bullet points. Tell me your opening statement here. And I'd say, well, that's good, but I would change this. Or, these are falling a little bit flat here. What if you said it like this? So they were really high interactive challenges, where I was getting people to do the work, but then showing them the simple tweaks and how much that amplifies and how much that boosts the power of their words. So they were really seeing the work in action, and they were really seeing my skills in action as well. And the whole point of that is A, to fall in love with me, but B, to go, holy shit, if I had her brain working not just on that one promo post, but on my sales page, on my email marketing, on my and so that was part of the pitch of look how much we've achieved on just one promotional post. What if we could actually methodically go through every piece in your funnel and give it the same kind of treatment, and just first of all figure out what those core ingredients of your messaging, what they all look like, but then, okay, how do I take those ingredients and put them into an email, put them into a sales page, all that sort of thing. So the whole challenge was really encouraging people to want to spend more time with me, wanting to work with me, but then showing them how critical those skills would be. But we just had fun hanging out for the week, which is, again, in my natural element. And I guess the final piece of the puzzle that I added, which felt like a really big win for me, and obviously it did for the attendees as well, is I created a fast action bonus, which was almost a second course in and of itself. People would have paid just as much for my actual course as they would have for this bonus. But I said it was going to be for the first 10 people who enrolled. And I didn't even ask them to pay in full, I don't think. Yeah, it was just the first 10 people that enrolled were going to get this amazing bonus. And I wrapped up the final day. I'd done my pitch and like, okay, the cart's open. And I remember going out to lunch. I had specifically was like, I'm just going to walk away from my phone. I'm going to go have lunch with some friends of mine to, do a little bit of a celebration. And before I had even, like, I went straight from the end of that live to the restaurant. Before I'd even got to the restaurant, I'd had 15 people sign up.
Wow.
And I kind of went, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that amount of people so quickly. So I ended up just putting a note in like, wow, you guys are amazing. You've jumped on this. I don't want people who watch the replay to miss out on that bonus. I didn't think it would get snapped up that quickly. So I'm going to extend that anybody who signs up in the first 24 hours will get that bonus as well.
Gotcha.
And I pretty much made my goal before I went to bed that night.
Yeah. Because you needed 20. Was the goal 10K?
I
5 figures?
didn't actually have a goal. Like
Okay.
I'd say I hit my goal. I actually didn't. When I think back to it now, I didn't actually have a goal. I just wanted to get enough people that I could justify running the group. So to be fair, I actually got that goal before I did the launch because I already had those 8 at the lower price. I had enough bums on seats, booties on seats to justify the course. So any sales that I made from the launch itself was really the cream on top.
Yeah. That's that's some sweet cream, an extra $10,000 on top.
And look, so this was on a Friday and I was flying out to New York on the Monday. And I had these really grand plans of like, while I'm on the plane to New York, I'll write out more email sequences so that more sales can come in, like, because the cart was going to be open for most of the time that I was away. But even by that point, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I could get more sales. I could squeeze more juice out of this, but I'm like, I feel so great about this whole thing. I'm just going to enjoy my time in New York. And I think I ended up with about 25, maybe it was between 25 and 30. I can't remember exactly, people in the group. And I was like, this is fantastic. I can enjoy my trip. I can come home and start at like running this amazing program with these people.
Awesome. Love that. All right. I've got some rapid fire questions for you, Melinda.
Go for it.
Okay. First one is around marketing or traffic source. So we know that the sales strategy is the challenge. How do you get people in your challenge? What's your favorite traffic source or social media platform?
So at the time it was Facebook groups, which I know that you're a proponent of. So I did have my own Facebook group, which didn't have a huge amount of people. It probably had about maybe 600 or 700. But that actually, every time I ran a challenge, my group got a boost in numbers because
Gotcha.
I
ran the challenge in that. Oh, sorry, you go.
I would host the challenge on my Facebook page so that it was accessible to everybody actually.
Yep.
But during the challenge, I would be like, if you want the workbook, make sure you go here and sign up and make sure you join us in the Facebook group because that's where everyone's posting their homework and where you're getting feedback on your work. So by running the challenge on my Facebook page, it was being organically spread because I would always get so much engagement on those live streams that it would get shown into other people's news feeds. So I was constantly having, even after the promotional time, I was constantly having new people stumble across a live, and then they were always being driven back to my email list and to the group.
Gotcha.
So yeah, every time I've run one of those challenges, it boosts the engagement in my group and boosts the numbers in my group as well. So I had promoted it in my own group. I promoted it to my email list as well. But I think the majority of my signups for that original challenge were in me promoting it in other people's Facebook groups as well. Places where I was already hanging out, where I was already contributing to the space. So I was already known as the messaging girl and where people already respected my skills. So I didn't have to do too much hard promotion.
But you'd done the work before kind of thing, It's like you didn't have to do too much hard promotion because, you'd done the work beforehand. It's kind of like someone comes to you now, oh, where can I promote? Well, what have you been doing for the last 3 months? If the answer to that's nothing, well.
Yeah. And without that, I would have gone okay. One of one of the reassuring things for me personally, because I'm not super consistent on social media, to be honest. And but one of the things that is always reassuring for me, and again, why I believe messaging is so important, is that even if I haven't been showing up, my messaging still cuts through.
Yeah.
So like, that's why this
post.
It does. It's such a fundamental skill, like that if I've been absent for however long, if I haven't emailed my list for 3 months, I can send an email out. And because my messaging is strong, I will get people signing up or booking in.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I want, or exactly what I need.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
So again, that's why messaging is such a bloody good skill. But of course, like what really helped me at that time was that I had been consistent, and I wasn't some random person who was trying to peddle this thing. Like I was a name that people had seen in the traps. And so I don't use Facebook groups as much anymore. Like I hang out in them and I contribute to conversations when I feel like it. But now YouTube is my primary platform, because I love that there's videos that I posted 2 years ago that still bring me leads and sales today. And I love that.
Give it a plug. What's your YouTube channel there, Melinda?
Yeah, you can check me out at melindakitto.com/YouTube. Yeah, so, and to be honest, even there, like I took a little bit of a break from posting regular videos, because I was working on some funnels and bits and pieces behind the scenes. But what has been fantastic about YouTube for me personally is that even not posting my weekly video every single week, like taking a bit of an extended break, again, those old videos that I posted 2 years ago still bring me enough leads that that my business has been able to continue to grow despite a lack of consistency. But it's definitely a good time to subscribe, because I'm bringing in a new form of content. I'm playing around with a new approach that hopefully will be really fun for people going forward. So
awesome.
Come check me out, come subscribe and strap in for for what might be to come.
Awesome. I'll put that link in the show notes. So I think that's a good discussion for another day, where it's kind of like from my take, I think what Melinda did was really good, because I think Facebook groups are good quick wins. It's like you can jump on now and get a client from a Facebook group today or next week or in a month. YouTube is a bit more of a longer game, like Melinda said, she's been out for 2 years, but it's good to get a combination of both, do your quick stuff now, but also work on something on the back end. So then you can get to the stage where Melinda's at, where you don't have to be posting on Facebook groups every day because you got a YouTube video that's bringing in leads. My next question was about sales, but I think you covered that. Your sales strategy is the challenge. So at the time, it was basically like, right, let's use Facebook groups to do my marketing, get my name out there, get people registered for the challenge. Right now, I do my selling in the challenge. You've covered what's going on there. In terms of the delivery, so did you do it live the first time, Melinda's? How did that kind of work?
Yeah, great question. So I was doing the approach that a lot of people teach of sell the thing first and then teach it live as you roll it out. So the material was already very familiar to me, because like I said, it was adapted. I already pretty much had the modules from my one-on-one work, but I was like refreshing them and repackaging them. But the benefit of delivering it live is I was getting immediate feedback from that group as to what was working, what wasn't. So my plan was to each week jump on live, do the teaching component, and then have Q&A immediately afterwards.
Gotcha. Stop recording there? Like was the... No. Okay, so Q&A was on the record as well?
Q&A was on the record as well.
Gotcha.
But what I realized pretty much after the first week, maybe the second week, I was like, I don't think this is working as well as it could, because what I was teaching people these concepts and they were like, wow, this is amazing. But they didn't yet have any time to apply that to their own work and come up with questions. So they didn't have enough time to kind of formulate a really valuable question for themselves. Like, okay, but how would this work for a dance instructor? How would this work for, So when you have a live group like that, I was able to say, hey guys, like, this is what I've noticed. Do you agree? Like, would you prefer if we did it this other way? And everyone was like, yes, that would be so much better. So I switched from the live teaching and the live Q&A to, I would pre-record the lesson and I would drop that on the Monday, let's say, and we would have the Q&A live call on the Thursday. So they could watch the content and come armed to that call with solid questions where they could actually get, real value. So I was able to be flexible and adapt to what my group needed. But then also what happened as I started running this group is I noticed so it was meant to be 8 weeks. Once we got into about week 4 or week 5, people were starting to panic because they were falling behind. And, I would be like, okay, who's got questions from the week 4 module that I sent out? And like, oh my God, I'm still at week 2. And so there was this real sense of panic in the group. So again, I could listen to the needs of the people and go, okay, well, let's change things up. So I added in some implementation weeks where no new module was released, but they could just catch up and, catch up on the work, really think about it and feel like they had solidified what we'd done so far before we moved on to the next. And so it's lessons like that you can't anticipate, right? And so the next time I ran it live, I built in implementation weeks into the curriculum from the start, which I just never would have done because I wouldn't have realized that's what was needed until we were in the process of doing it.
It's an interesting one because I think from the course creator, we just want to think, okay, let's give info every week, new thing, but no one's got the time to implement a whole new thing every single week. It's kind of like any skill, to be honest. It's like, I've just started taking Brazilian jiu-jitsu lessons, right? Yeah. And it's really hard to keep up because every lesson's a new thing and a new thing and a new thing. And then I forgot what we did the last week. And it's kind of like, I go twice a week. I would prefer it if it was like, almost like you mentioned, just the exact same thing on both days where it's like, all right, let me go on Tuesday. Okay, learn this new thing here. And then let me go on Thursday. Don't teach me anything new. Let me recap and implement what I learned on Tuesday. Okay, now I'm solid with that. Now let's get a new one here. So I think that's a really good lesson. Okay, final question. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was just going to say, that's when a course creator is focused on, this is all the information that I need you to know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think so many course creators are so attached to people finishing their program. Like, honestly, I don't give a flip if you finish my program or not. I want you to get the outcome you came for.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get that outcome in module 2.
Yeah.
Like there was a program that I did. It was a 6-month group coaching program. It was one of the first ones that really kind of catapulted my business forward. And I don't think I got past week 5 out of this 6-month course because what I learned early on, I was like,
give it a plug, by the way, Melinda.
Oh, well, she's actually wrapped up a business now. So her name is Melissa. Her name is Melissa Farr, and a coach from the US. And she was absolutely brilliant, but she's taken a different path in life since that time. But early on, I got the lesson that I needed and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to focus on implementing. And so I spent the next 6 months in that program just doing the first few lessons over and over again. And that's where my business catapulted. Yeah. So it didn't matter that I never got to module 6, let alone 17, because I got the outcome that I needed, which was to be selling one-on-one clients and getting booked out and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So detach yourself from people finishing your course and just make sure that what they are learning, that they're actually able to translate that into their business and their outcome or their life or their health or whatever it is that you're selling.
Such a good tip. Okay. Final question. This course now, have you got it on demand or is it always a cohort type course?
So it's now evolved. It's no longer a course. It's now a group coaching program.
Gotcha.
Because again, from those early lessons, I realized that particularly when it comes to words, people need help putting them together. So they can learn the lessons all they like, but often people will go, I'm so confused. I don't know. And I'm like, what if you just said it like this? They're like, oh my God, I've been trying to figure that. Like sometimes you just need that person to reach into your brain and go, here's what we do. So it's now a group coaching program where we do weekly Q&As, and we also do a weekly copy critique. So you get the tips and you get the strategy and you get like the idea for how you want to implement it. But then you send me your sales page and I go, wow, this is awesome. This bit's shit. This bit's like, what if we tweak that? So I literally go through everybody's work line by line and help to kind of give it the oomph that it needs.
Gotcha.
So your main question was about, is it on demand? Yes, people can enroll at any time. And again, that has come from the lessons that I learned early on running this in live cohorts, is after about the second or third week, everyone is at different stages anyway.
Yeah.
Some people power ahead, some people get stuck on their ideal client or whatever it is. And so even in a live group, very quickly, everybody's at different stages.
Such a good
yeah. And so I saw that happening in action. And then I also just realized that there's a lot of value for people being at different stages as well. So we have some people in our program who are trying to get their first one-on-one clients. And we have other people who have a course that is selling on Evergreen that they're trying to boost their conversions. So we've got the range of people with already established funnels in place and people who are just like showing up on social media and trying to get those initial people through the door. Because fundamentally, no matter where you are along that journey, you need to understand the ingredients of your messaging, and you need to know, how do I apply those ingredients, whether it's on a sales page, whether it's in a one-on-one conversation, whether it's on a YouTube video, like however you're showing up, if you know what those messaging ingredients are and you know how to pull them together, then all you need to do is talk about what you do, and the right people will say, oh my God, I need that.
Love it. Okay, Melinda, that's all we got time for today. That's pretty much everything I wanted to get through. Is there anything I should have asked you but forgot to, or anything you want to finish us off with?
I guess the only thing I can say is, if you feel like this kind of work is what you need, I do have some great videos on YouTube that I mentioned. You can check out some of my back catalogue there. And if this work is kind of floating your boat, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at Melinda Kitto. Just touch base with me. I do actually offer an advanced training for which kind of takes you behind the scenes of the framework that I teach in my program and how we help our clients get results. So if you like this work, if it's something that's making you say, oh my God, I need that, then probably best to touch base with me on Instagram, and I can hook you up with that advanced training, and just so you can see exactly how we help people get the results that they get.
Awesome. All right, Melinda, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Jono. Awesome.